Hello and welcome to Together We Feel. We're so happy to have you here on our women's panel this week. Today, we're talking to some military spouses that are very dear to me. They are part of my community. They have been guests with me on panels and on the podcast. And I planned this. I told them I planned this a couple of months ago before the conflict with Iran started, before we were actually deploying, our military into war activities. And it's hard enough on the day-to-day to be a military spouse, but then you add the conflict into it. So much to share. These women live it every day. They are a resource for it every day. We're going to talk about a really big resource that all three of us are involved with. It's coming up in May, that share it far and wide. Let your military friends know it's coming, and have them listen to this panel as well, because Reyna and Nicole Gebhardt are here today to share their stories of being a military spouse, their support, their resources. It's going to be a really authentic, vulnerable, honest conversation about what it's like to live this kind of life of giving and sacrifice. Because, when we get on planes and we hear there are military people aboard, it's very common on airplanes to recognize them, to honor them, to thank them for our service, at ball games, all these things. But we don't always remember to thank the spouses that get left behind to manage everything that's going on in the day-to-day, many times very solo, because depending on the assignments of their spouses, they may or may not have contact with them for a while. And for their spouses who are doing these jobs, sometimes very dangerous jobs in very dangerous areas, the importance it is for them to know that there's stability at home. There's some people loving them, waiting for them at home. But on the flip side, these spouses are flying solo and making the day-to-day hard decisions and sometimes the big decisions. They're explaining to family members and sometimes their kids, if they have kids, what's happening in the best words possible. And sometimes they can't say a lot because sometimes these things are confidential. So they're left to come up with this on their own. These women have, both in their own ways, created community for spouses around this. They have saw the lack of what they need and they've made it happen. They're very active on this front, and they're truly a blessing to anyone that they come across. But it didn't come without them learning their own hard lessons along the way. So I'm so thankful for you to making time for this today, because you're both in a very, very busy, unexpected season, and we'll let you talk more about that. But Reyna and Nicole, welcome to Together We Feel today. I'm so happy to have you with me.
Thank you. Thanks for having us today.
And someone just made a comment on here saying you're a blessing. So it's always good to get those. Thank you so much for that. Reyna, I want to start with you. Talk to me about your journey as a military spouse and why this conversation is so important to you. Nicole, then we'll go to you on that.
Absolutely. So hi, everyone. As she stated, I'm Reyna Worthy. I have been a military spouse I'm approaching 12 years now next month. So it's been a long, interesting journey. I did not know anything about the military. I did see service members, but no one in my family had ever served. So when I met my now husband, he just told me he was in the military. And I did say, the thank you for your service, not knowing all that entails and what that would look like. And so as a first military spouse, when I was fresh to everything, I didn't understand the acronyms. I didn't understand how to build a community. I was in a new state. I had just graduated college. So I was still trying to find my footing and get a job and career. And that was hard and difficult. And finding out that my husband was going to be deployed as well as a new spouse, that was something new to me. Wow. So in the beginning, it was the challenges of, well, how do I work? How do I drive around? How do I find people in my neighborhood that I may be able to trust in this new state?
Yeah.
And there was a lot of resources that existed that were on the installation, but you didn't really find out about them unless you met another military spouse. And if you didn't live on a base, you didn't know anything, So I lived off the installation. So my first 2 to 3 years were difficult. Someone had to tell me, oh, this is who you need to reach out to. As the years went on, I felt like there was a lot of gaps in having conversations with other military spouses and them also feeling like, man, I'm not heard, or no one's really speaking up for me, or I don't see these resources talked about enough, or they don't exist here. I wanted to change that. I wanted to be a part of that change, knowing that, I've dealt with that. Yeah, I would like to have more assistance with deployment versus just a brief where you're getting talked at, versus talked to as a military spouse. So I went about changing that with the Desk of a Navy Wife, providing resources, reaching out to other individuals. And now I'm a seasoned spouse, you could say, and I'm here helping other military spouses, new and seasoned.
Wow. And we're gonna let you expand on that as we get into the conversation today. So hold there to hear more about that. Nicole, how about you?
Thank you for having me today. Such an honor to be here. My husband has served for 28 years. I'm hitting year 14 as a military spouse. And I remember even as a little girl, that was the one thing I said, I could never be a military spouse. Those women have to be so strong, so independent. And here we are. It's funny. We have moved 9 times in the last 12 years. My husband is constantly deployed. Most months he is away with the military more than he is even home. But as hard as this life has been, I wouldn't change it. It's been such an honor to serve along his side and meet some incredible people along the way. March 2nd, 2009, my life completely changed. I lost my firstborn son, Samuel. It ended up getting labeled as SIDS. And I remember feeling so alone. Here we are moving every 2 years, starting over, new homes, new neighborhoods, new friends, new community, new life for the children. And I remember thinking, if I ever heal from this loss and turn my pain into purpose, I will make it my life mission to be that voice for all women, specifically military spouses who've experienced pregnancy and infant loss like myself. I've also struggled with several miscarriages. And I feel blessed to have done that. Every time we move, every time we PCS, I start a pregnancy and infant loss support group. I was just named 2026 National Guard Spouse of the Year. I'm president of the Eielson Spouses Club here in Alaska, the first National Guard president. So it's been such an honor to serve. But like Reyna says, it's not an easy life. You really have to find your people. And that's the first thing I do every time we move. I make sure I get so plugged in to where we're living. So I have those spouses that are my friends, and they are my best friends. And as crazy as this life is, it's been incredible I have friends all over the world. So if wherever I'm moving, I can pick up the phone and say, I need you. So it's definitely been a journey, but well worth it.
Wow. So much to that. I think so. Reyna, I want to go back to you. Sometimes these moves are unexpected. You're in the middle of an unexpected one right now. You weren't supposed to be moving yet. You weren't supposed to be moving till much later. Now you are. How do you juggle that? And especially, I want to go back to that job and career piece, because it's a big ask for military spouses to try to manage that and maintain that while still living this life the way it's cut out to be. So talk to me about first how you manage those unexpected moves and then dealing with kiddos and all those things that go with that, but also the job and career piece. How do you manage that and still find yourself within it? Because it would be really easy to continue to be a human doing instead of a human being and all this, and lose sight of who you are and what you care about, and living in alignment with yourself while still in your values and what's important to you, while still honoring this life that you've signed up for. And then Nicole, I'll give you a chance to address that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So with us moving, I did get used to moving every 3 years. So I knew it was coming. I just know the year that we move, I started doing where, okay, I'm going to buy totes. I'm going to buy labelers. I'm going to start packing up slowly but surely, still leaving pictures on the wall. So it still feels like home. But anything we weren't going to be using within the next few months, it can go away. We don't need it. We're going to pack it up. And so that was my mind this year, was getting totes. Now, what was unforeseen was how early. So now we're leaving 6 months earlier than we were expected to.
Wow.
So I kind of had to go in overdrive and reach out to that
Yeah.
community friends. Just yesterday, some friends brought me packing tape and sweets to kind of get through packing through move. And they check in. Hey, do you need help with anything? Do you need me to go run and do something? Something that was unexpected was even something as, I guess, small as selling my car. Like I didn't foresee me having to sell my car and now not have access to do anything because I no longer have a vehicle. So those are challenges.
Wow.
But this year I did do a lot of alignment. I did different cohorts where I said, okay, what fits with me and my purpose, where I don't feel like I'm on autopilot and I do feel like this is a path that I am meant to be going down. And anything that didn't mesh well with that, I knew I needed to cancel. I needed to take it out of my life, take it out of my schedule, to include anything that was either negativity or anything that felt like I was being overworked. And that shifted into my career side.
Yeah.
Changes in transition. I will say I was grateful to be a contractor. I did work for the government as a contractor for 5 years. So I had that opportunity, and that was something I was able to carry with me through every PCS.
Okay.
Once we're here and we're getting ready to move, I felt like, okay, this is my time to transition elsewhere, because I started to see that I was losing like my grounding and having that feeling of being either listened to or trusted or valued. And that's not something I was willing to lose, especially as we're going to our next journey. So I stepped away from that and went full throttle into the desk of a Navy wife and bringing resources even more to military spouses and connecting with military spouses like Nicole as well, as having those conversations. So it was definitely self-alignment. You have to align yourself and really have those honest conversations with yourself on what's working for you and your family, what's not, what are you willing to let go of, and what are you willing to no longer make sacrifices on if you've already been making sacrifices. So a lot of self-reflection this year within the past 2 months prior to us having to leave.
Wow. So, but I love the planning. Like you've learned, you've got a system. Like, so even though you got thrown the loop of leaving 6 months earlier, you still already had put your system in place.
Yes.
So rather than having these massive adjustments, you're like, okay, we just got to make a few adjustments here.
Yes.
And the way that you've really taken the time to check in with yourself on that alignment piece, I think is so valuable, because it's a constant check-in process for everyone. I think probably even more so for you all because of all that you can be thrust into so unexpectedly, where it's like, okay, here we go. Switch. We got to adjust. Let's go. I mean, and being able to do that and having systems in place to do that. Nicole, Nicole, talk to me about your experience with this.
Absolutely. So we are a National Guard family, but a lot of people think that means we're just weekend warriors. We're just once a month, but that is very untrue. We move every 18 to 24 months, just like all the other branches. The interesting thing about the Guard is not only do we serve overseas, we also serve stateside. So we are deployed along the state. Well, for instance, during COVID, while everybody was home with their spouses, I didn't see my husband. He was gone. So that is one thing that's very interesting about the National Guard. It's like I said, it's definitely been a journey. I think one of the biggest things I've had to learn is that it's okay to ask for help. As a military spouse, especially as an officer's wife, you kind of think, okay, I got to do this on my own. I got to be there, do it all, by myself. But that's not true. We have to learn as women, as military spouses, that it's okay to ask for help. And it's really been interesting because as I've got brave enough to do that and realize I'm worthy of that, all these other people want to help. They want to be there for you. They want to be bringing the packing tape and bringing the cookies and being there. This has definitely been a hard life for my children. When we do move, they are having to, go to these new schools where a lot of children have grown up together. And so one of the biggest things I've done with that is as soon as we move, I'm getting them involved in sports, involved in the community. So they're not just having military friends, they're also having children that have been together for a long time. As far as work, Reyna, is true. It is wild because every time we do move, if you're in the office, like you really have to find another job. I'm very blessed that I have published 4 books and that I get to coach women, but I can do that online. So it doesn't matter where I move, I can do it through Zoom. But a lot of military spouses do not have that. As far as PCS things, same for us. I feel like every time we plant roots, they're like, it's time for you to go. And I'll never forget with this one. My husband, we were at the Pentagon. We just moved from Washington, D.C. last July. He called me from the Pentagon. He's like, guess what? We're moving to Alaska. And I said, guess what? No, we're not. You're going by yourself. Because they have something called geobaching. I'm like, we're not going. But when I started doing my research and asking people, okay, what is Eielson Air Force Base? Tell me more about Fairbanks, Alaska. What Anchorage? What do you need? I came to find out there's never been a pregnancy and infant loss support group here. There's never been, I'm 6 years sober as well. There's never been an AA sponsor to military spouses here. My first marriage ended in a very painful divorce due to years of abuse. There's never been someone speaking for women who have experienced spousal abuse here. So as soon as I did my research and like, oh my gosh, we could change the world there. And then you couldn't get me here fast enough, which that's another thing. It's hurry up and wait, like get you ready. And then we're going to give you a couple more months before we decide to move you. So it is like Reyna says, you have to have these systems. Another thing for us, if we haven't touched something in 2 years, we're purging. It's going. It's going. And but then you also learn, we have decided that everywhere we live, we're going to make it a true home. We have taught our children that wherever we go, meet new people, experience new cultures, get out there and explore. Alaska, we get to see the Northern Lights. We just had a moose show up in our backyard the other day. I mean, there's things like that everywhere you move, you get to really embrace those, those different places. So it's been an incredible, crazy journey.
Yeah. I think too, so much about your kids will feed off of your attitude about
100%.
it. And so they're going to follow your lead on that. And they're far more perceptive than we give them credit for. I love what you talked about in getting them engaged, getting them involved, not denying that this is difficult, but we're not going to just stay locked up and mourn the loss of what we're leaving behind. We're going to get involved and embrace the new.
And my mentality is a mindset. Like, first of all, we can do anything for 2 years. Every time we were like, I can do this for 2 years. I can do this for 2 years. And it really is a mindset. If you go in saying this is going to suck, it's going to suck. You go in saying this is going to be the best 2 years of my life, you better believe it's going to be the best 2 years of my life,
And doing those check-ins, like I do a lot of mental conversations with my children, with them being in elementary school. How are you feeling? What are, some concerns that you may have? Are you excited? And my daughter told me last week, she said flat out, I want to get everyone's email address. I want to get everyone's phone number before we move. And I said, okay, we'll do it. I'll send you this book. But she's excited for where we're going. And again, like you said, Nicole, that excitement. We're going to Japan, and they've been to Japan before. Yeah. So they're excited to go back to Japan because they did know Japan first. And it is a big move now that they're a little bit older. So that'll be interesting. But having those conversations and
100%.
that excitement.
And I will say, Reyna, like as a woman that has a spouse that has older children now, high school, it gets harder because they start building those long-lasting relationships. And it does. But like another thing, my daughter, we were stationed at 1st Air Force in Panama City Beach a few years ago. She still talks to that friend. She's going to fly back and see her again this summer. So if you find those ways, to maintain, and I love that you're going, overseas, but I think that's another thing people need to realize. Most of the time we have no clue where we're going. It's just like, okay, you got 2 months. This is where you're moving to, but we go overseas as well. And those are difficult, being so far away from family and friends. But again, it really is that mindset. And you guys can go over there and explore, and see different things that we may never get to see. So it is an incredible opportunity as well.
Yeah, I think you both spoke to that both and. We can mourn and miss and honor. And what do you need to feel supported? I love that check-in you do, Reyna, of like, how are we feeling? So we're not, we're not telling them, hey, just, you don't get to feel sad. You don't get to feel scared. No, there's room for all of that. So let's make room for that. And also how we learn to live and exist in this new space and keeping, and them learning how to maintain relationships that they're leaving behind. These are all really valuable life lessons when you know when you've got the right tools to navigate them. I think you both spoke to that so well. Nicole, it hit me so, and we talked about this when you and I first met, that ability to go to a place and give them resources, because I don't think we talk in the spouses getting left behind. You all are solo so much. That can be incredibly lonely. I think that a lot of alcohol, drug addiction, food addiction, shopping addiction, all of these things, it's kind of a fertile ground for those to take hold. And especially when you're alone, your partner is not there. So for you to be able to walk in and give resources and hope to people in places that have never had access to it before. Because I think one of the things that you've talked about too, you and I've asked you this in the past, is like, what happens when you leave? And you do a really good job of building it in a way that someone is ready to take it over when you're gone. So it doesn't leave with you.
Right.
It's you lay the groundwork. So you're going all over the country laying the groundwork for these important resources.
Yeah, when my son died at 9 weeks and then I went on to have the miscarriages, I felt so alone. So alone. And that again, I remember promising my son and the babies that I miscarried, if I ever get clean and sober, because I started to drink and use after the child losses. I also went through, like I said, a very painful divorce due to years of abuse after our son passed away. And I remember just thinking, I will be the change if I can ever heal from this. And, that's what I've done. And I do leave them. I don't want to just start the pregnancy and infant loss support groups or be the AA sponsor or, speak on spousal abuse if no one can pick that up when I leave. I really try to build that so that can keep going. That is such a need, especially for the military community, because we do feel alone. It is a hard life to live. And especially when your spouse is deployed, then it's you taking care of it. We've got 6 children, all these little children. You've got to learn to find space and time for yourself. That's another thing I tell all the spouses. Do at least one thing for yourself each week. And it doesn't have to be spending all this money and going shopping and buying the shoes and the purses. Get your nails done. Go for a walk. Turn on your favorite song in the kitchen and just dance. Take a bath. Do something for yourself, because we are spouses. We're constantly give. But if you're not careful about filling your own cup, then you're going to be right there with them. You're going to be exhausted and you're not going to be able to do what you need to do while you're waiting for your husband to come back or your wife or whatever it may be. So it's very important that you're giving to yourself as well.
Yeah. I love that you said too, that asking for help piece. I think it's so important. People are not mind readers. It is incumbent that you communicate your needs. Reyna, I want to go back to you, and then Nicole, we're going to give you a chance to speak to this too, because you've experienced this in 2 different relationships. Talk to me about maintaining. How do you keep a marriage alive and healthy in this way? What have you learned about that? Reyna, we'll have you go first.
Absolutely. So when my husband was deployed a lot, when we were overseas, he left and my son was maybe a couple months old. So I had a toddler and then a 2-month-old, and I was by myself, and COVID hit. So and he was already gone. So they couldn't come back with him.
Oh, that's right.
So now I was like, oh my gosh. How do I do this? How do I balance this? Now, we communicated a lot through email at the time, but I had to have the understanding that we may not be able to reach one another. So it was me journaling out, this is what happened today. Or if there was the baby did this, or our toddler did this, writing it down so that I could then have time to send it in an email with the understanding he may get it within a week. I may hear back within a week, but sharing those experiences and showing them or showing him not all the negativity that I may have been going through at the time. They're also facing a lot every day. And so let me share the positive experiences. Let me share what we're doing to keep ourselves busy, what activities, what places we look forward to doing together when you come home. So a lot of sharing that is what I did, and making sure we keep those conversation lines open, even if it was something where, did you have a rough day? Like, did something, what may have happened? And every once in a while we could touch base over the phone, but it wasn't often. Everything was just email. So you had to try to fill the communication through the email until he returned. But when he came home around the holidays, we reserved Christmas. So I did a little bit with the kids, but then when he came home, we made sure we had time to do a Christmas celebration with him too. So he didn't feel like he missed that holiday. And so making sure that check-in. And then we immediately did like a family outing and having a conversation. And then we went on dates. We were able to, as COVID lifted slowly but surely, we scheduled those dates. But it's very important to have those conversations. Even when you're feeling down, it may be rough to have those conversations, but like you said, we're not mind readers. They're not mind readers. They have a lot already going on at work, but vice versa. As a spouse, we have a lot going on too. So having that conversation on, hey, this is how I'm feeling. This may have been your intention, but this is how it impacted me. Having those true, honest conversations is really what helped the marriage and really what helps us now, even with everything that we're going through with this unforeseen move so early, kind of having that time to sit down and talk about it.
Wow. Okay. Nicole, I'm going to go to you. And then the follow-up question is going to be when they come home and bringing them back into the schedule, because my husband used to travel a lot, and we've moved 12 times, maybe 13 over a 33-year period. Not the same as you, but we've moved quite a bit. I've lived in 7 states. And so you're used to, you kind of get, especially when the kids you kind of get on a schedule, and then you got to factor them back into this. So put a pin in that thought. But Nicole, I want to have you have 2 very different marriage experiences as a military spouse. Talk to me about what you've learned through that and how now. I love Reyna's journal idea of like just that daily kind of tracking, so you can remember to tell them those little moments. But talk to me about your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I love when you say, you're journaling and doing that, Reyna. That's so smart. One of the biggest things I do is I'm constantly taking videos and pictures when he's away. I'll be very honest. When my son passed away, I didn't have a lot of pictures. And so because of that, I take like 10 pictures a day. Like legit, you can go through my phone. My kids are like, okay, mommy. I'm like, but I want to have memories. I mean, I pray to God that never happens to another one of my children, but I want to have those memories. I think the biggest thing too is communication. Like Reyna said, there'll be a time where I'm not talking to my husband for weeks if he's deployed. I have no clue when that conversation is going to come. Is it going to be, an email? What is it going to be? What is it going to be? So I think definitely the communication, but I do want to touch on when she says date nights, when he returns, the first biggest thing, we're all there celebrating that he's home. We take a trip, just the 2 of us, almost immediately. And that gives us time to like really touch base and say, this is what's been going on the home front. Do you want to share, a little bit what you are able to share, and how can we get back on the same, on the same level? Another thing is every Friday night for us is a date night. We've done it since our kids were 2, 3, 4 years, every Friday night. Now, when they were younger, you didn't want to just pay all this money and get a babysitter. It'll be going in the backyard and having like a cheese plate together, something simple like that, or going for a walk together. Now we're like, see ya kids, we're out, and they know it. They know not to plan anything on Friday nights. That's mommy and daddy's time. Another big thing is you've got to discover each other's love language. And I love this because, and it will shift. In the beginning of our marriage, it was words of affirmation. So every morning, Jeff and I, my husband and I, send each other a text message. I love you because, and it's not just the same stuff. Like I've been thinking of you because, thank you because, and then now it's become like touch, and you'll grow together, and it's just holding each other's hands, or checking in with each other. The first thing we do also when he gets home from work, we get 2 minutes of give me a rundown, let's touch base. And also I want to say on these date nights, we're not talking about kids. That is not allowed to be talking about, or the military. No. We're talking about what's going on each day in your life. What do we need addressed? How is our marriage? How are, things like that. So definitely touching base and communication is absolutely key.
Wow. I love both of you. Excellent ideas. This is going to be such important information for people listening now live to have, and also if they couldn't be here live to listen to the recording. Go back to you, Reyna, and you guys have kind of touched on this already, but you've talked about bringing them home and what about incorporating them back into the day-to-day? Because you figure out a schedule that works for you and the kids, and you get in a flow, and then all of a sudden you've got this person who sometimes, and I think, we don't talk about this, we don't always know exactly, because there's only so much, many times that they can talk about, or that they're ready to talk about what they've been through. This is very difficult. The mental health of our military and our veterans is one of the most complex things that we still, I feel like as a country, haven't come up with a really effective plan in dealing with. So they're carrying God knows what.
Mm-hmm.
And then also trying to incorporate into what might feel a little bit of a humdrum, because they've been in these scenarios where they've got to be really focused, really on, that's all they're focusing on. Like the you've got things at home, they're focusing on this. So that's what they're trying to do. And then facilitating and bringing them back into the day-to-day while they kind of, I would say, come down off of what this, the latest deployment. So talk to me about that. Reyna, go first, and then we'll go to you, Nicole.
Yeah. So the reintegration, I guess you could call it, period.
Yeah.
At home, first, I do celebration. So every deployment that he's gone, even if I know ahead of time, I'll say it that way. If I know ahead of time he's coming home, I'm celebrating. But there have been some surprises that I was not talked about. But either way, being able to celebrate that moment, that space together as a family, and then being able to allow that week to 2 weeks of rest, understanding that he was on high alert. He's out at sea. He's on high alert, so a lot's going on. There may have different things, like you said, that he's dealt with. But through the years, those were conversations we had to have in the beginning. Hey, when I get home, I kind of just need like a space. I just need a second to kind of come back to myself. And that space could be him playing video games for a couple of hours a day, just to kind of get his mind elsewhere, where he doesn't have to really think about something too much.
Sure.
And then after those first couple of weeks, it's, okay, now doing our check-in, and then explaining, hey, this is what I was doing with the kids while you were gone. They like this for breakfast now. They like this is her favorite pair of shoes. She has to wear it every day. So having those kind of conversations, to give them a heads up of, this is what we were doing, and then maybe lunchtime will change now with daddy being home, and having that time, making sure the kids had time, because my daughter's a daddy's girl. So hey, she wants to be with daddy for a while. You guys go out and go to the park or go do something together. So making sure he's had time to kind of calm down some. So a couple weeks for that, and then building in, hey, this was the schedule. This is what we were doing. What can we now start fitting back into life, I guess you could say, or our schedule with you now being back home, and having that understanding that he needed time before just, all right, go. We have to pack up backpacks, and we have to, like, I was still doing the routine in the morning of taking them to daycare just to give them a second. And then it was like, okay, no, he wants to be involved. He wants to be there. He wants to be present, So I think it's very important to give them their space for a second, if that's what that individual needs. And then having those check-ins again, and then getting into the schedule slowly but surely, instead of just dropping it on his plate. That was important for us. Yeah.
Yeah, Nicole, go ahead.
I think you have to learn. I've learned what my husband needs, and he wants to jump right back in. And then that some spouses need the space, and I think that's really, really important. And you learn a lot of that, especially after the first deployment. You figure, okay, this is not going to work. This is going to work. It's wild, though. You hear a lot of divorces because people aren't communicating. People aren't.
That's it. That's this big thing I'm hearing here is communication. Yeah.
And you have to realize, your spouse has been away. There's most of the stuff they can't talk about. I will tell you 99% of the deployments, I didn't know where my husband was. I have no clue. Wow. I'll never forget that when we were stationed in Savannah, I was the key spouse at the time. And a C-130, my husband flies the C-130s. A C-130 went down, and I'm getting phone calls. Was that us? Was that us? Was that us? And they can't get the information fast enough back to you. And it was devastating to, find out. Thank goodness it wasn't him. But I don't think a lot of people realize, we're constantly in a day. You just never know.
You're in the dark.
We ended up in Alaska because my husband was very blessed. He made the command list, and he took over a squadron command here. And we're really in the thick of it right now. He's at a deployable space. So he's gone Monday through Friday. So I'm currently living that life Monday through Friday, where it's just me, it's just mom. And then he's home Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah. I'm almost like, I wish you were just deployed.
You constantly are recuperating him.
How do we make this work? But again, it goes back to communication and making sure we're on the same page. this is how we discipline. This is what's going on with chores.
Yes.
This is what's going on with my job, and how
yeah.
I'm serving on IELTS and the things. So again, it goes back to that communicate and build your tribe. I can't say it enough. I will tell you, if someone checks in, hey, I didn't see you at Bible study, or I didn't see you at this meeting. What's going on? I'm sick. Jeff's gone. And you will believe you better believe there's a meal at my front doorstep within. That's the thing. You've got to reach out, because again, they don't know what they don't know. And don't be afraid to do that. People do want to help you, but you got to remember, you got to ask. So it really goes back to then, asking for help, the communication, and just realizing that you're going to be okay. You've got to know the resources too. Like with my husband, men as well need counseling or coaching or therapy or whatever.
Absolutely.
Think of the stuff they go to. I will say this, like they think PTSD also is just military. That's not true. After my son died and the abuse I endured and the rape in college, like I experienced quite a bit of PTSD as well. Spouses experience it too. And we also are worthy of getting that help that, the military is getting as well. And I think people need to remember that. I remember one spouse telling me, aren't spouses all alcoholics? And it made me just cringe, because that is what we cling to a lot as human beings. We cling to the alcohol, or, shopping or weight or whatever it may be, because we do feel alone and we think we have to do this alone, but that's just not the case. And you need to remember that you're also, as a military spouse, as a woman in general, you're worthy to get the help too, but you got to ask.
Yeah. And it's not weakness to ask. It's strength to ask.
Yes.
We wear this. It's brave. Yes. Yes. We wear these things carrying all this like a badge of honor. Women are notorious for that. And spouses, I think, period, for military, because my spouse is over here doing all this, I should feel so proud. You can feel multiple things. You can be sad that they're leaving, angry that they missed that thing that you wish you could, and also very proud and happy. All of those things are possible.
And you need to honor those feelings. It's okay to feel sad sometimes. It's okay to miss your person. I mean, he's my best friend. I want him home by my side every day. It's a tough life to live. So I want you to honor those feelings as well. Don't just think, yay, we're serving America and we've done all the great. No, it's a hard life, and it's okay to honor those feelings as well.
And saying that I'm frustrated. I'm not frustrated with you per se, but I don't like that your schedule's changing every week.
Exactly. Years out from retirement, I'm like, yes, I'm so excited. I'm going to live somewhere. I'm living in Florida. I'm going to live in a place where they can't tell me when I'm going to move, where I'm going to move. I'm going to put up Christmas lights for the first time. I'm going to meet all my people that are not leaving me. I'm not going to lie. I'm super excited. Like, we have done our duty. We have served proudly, and I'm ready.
I love that.
Time to shine. I'm going to thrive in my business. I'm going to do all the things, and my husband's all on board. He's like, I can't wait for you. I'm so excited. It's your time now, and it's exciting.
It is.
Yeah, I love that both. And Reyna, you said something really important here. You separated the frustration and didn't make it an identity thing. Yes. Like I'm so frustrated with you. I'm frustrated with this part of your job. That's really important. That allows conversations. It doesn't put anybody on the defense when you're able to separate this thing from them personally. I think that's huge.
And that had to happen through years and through time. Because at first, it's just like I'm walking around with an attitude, right? And if I'm not communicating, it's like, well, what's wrong with you? What happened?
Yeah.
Versus now, through the years, to having that conversation. Oh, I'm just, I'm frustrated that you are now working, every night instead of during the day. We got used to a day schedule. Now you're working at night, or they just threw this cycle on you where you're now deploying or detaching, and we weren't expecting that. So I'm upset. I'm frustrated with that. But then I also, after the fact, communicate what we're going to figure it out. We're going to get through it. But this is the moment where I'm going to be in a little funk for today. And then, and then we'll work through what that's going to look like, what that schedule is going to look like. So again, you need to name this communication, because that is
and a lot of it is communication. And a lot of the clients that I coach and the military spouses I work with, they're like, well, I don't know how to just have that conversation. I don't know how. And I'm like, put it on paper. Write it down. Put it in a letter, whatever you need to do. Exactly. If you feel like you can't just sit there and talk that's okay. Write it down. write it down, but you've got to have that communication. It is
Yeah.
vital, or your marriage isn't going to survive this life. It's not going to. That's just the truth.
Yeah. Even a vocal recording, like where you're just talking out loud and getting it out. There's so many different ways, but that's the key thing I'm hearing out of here. This conversation is communication. Speaking of communication, going back to the kids piece, helping them to understand the parent isn't abandoning them. The parent doesn't love them less because they're gone all the time. That can be hard for little emotions to understand. So keeping that communication open with them about what the parent that's leaving is doing and a part of. Talk to me about that. Reyna, we'll start with you and then Nicole.
Yeah. So with my daughter, because she's a little bit older, it's in the beginning, it was definitely sitting down and giving her a heads up if we had a heads up. Hey, we just want to let you know Daddy's going to be gone for a little while for work. His boss is calling. So she doesn't like the boss. I'll just tell you that right now.
The boss is the villain.
When are we getting rid of this boss? So the boss is calling Daddy to go and do some work, and he has to work away from home for a while. If we know the dates, we'll tell her the dates from this time to this time. And you and I are going to do activities as we count down, or we're going to do a calendar. If you want to draw a picture for Daddy every day, we can do that as we get closer and closer. So now she's gotten accustomed to it, and it's helped her sibling, because of course he's newer to it, and he's like, where's Daddy? Is he at what? Now he knows. Is Daddy at work or is he at the gym? Is Daddy at work or is he at the gym? So he'll ask those questions. And checking, it's important to check in and know that they're going to be going through multiple emotions. One day they may be sad. One day they may seem like they're over it, and they're kind of getting through and understanding and adjusting. But then the next day they may not. And you can't be frustrated and mad at them for that, because they're children. They're trying to learn managing their emotions the same as we're trying to as adults. So being sure that if there is something where maybe I'm upset, I'm not showing it to my child. Right. I don't want them to think they did something wrong and now it's, X, Y, Z. It could be, I have to cook another meal, or I have to figure out what we're doing for dinner, but not take it out on, the kiddos. Right. So having the conversations and doing activities is very big with the kids and them adjusting, but they definitely communicate flat out that don't like the boss, and they're ready to settle down. And we acknowledge that. We acknowledge your feelings are valid. Absolutely understand where you're coming from. Here's what we can do as we work through it, or there's only a few more years. There's only a few more years. But doing that check-in, whether it's the deployment, whether it's a change, work schedule change, giving them a heads up if we have a heads up is crucial for them to be able to adapt, you could say.
In process. Yeah, absolutely. Nicole, how about you?
Yeah, definitely. I think the check-ins, that's brilliant. I think it does change with their ages as well. Like at this point, we can say, this is how we, pay for our life. This is how we have, a roof over our heads and food on the table and clothes on our back. So I think the conversations definitely shift. Some of the biggest things we do is before every deployment, he does a small little trip with each of our children, like individually. So he has a little time, maybe it's just a day trip, some time where it's just with that person, with that child. Another thing is, when he's back, he does date nights with our kids. He does it's so cute to me, a daughter date night. He goes to play sports with my son. He's making sure he's spending that one-on-one time, not as a group, one-on-one time with each other. And also, like when he's away now, the 4 days a week, he's doing FaceTimes with the kids. He's like, fill me in. And I'm recording if he can't go to a basketball game or a cheer competition, something like that. I'm making sure, because you got to think about them too. Think about how much they miss. Think about all the birthdays they missed and all, these special things with the children, or they made honor roll and you go to awards ceremony, like they're missing. So we've missed Christmases and Thanksgivings, like those kind of things. So it's really hard for them as well. But I think constantly checking in, like, how are you feeling today? And they'll have moments like, I can't believe Daddy's making us go here. Why are we moving to Alaska? Or what? But then they're excited. Oh, but we get to move to Florida where we have family. So it's definitely a lot of different emotions, and, checking in, I think is quite brilliant as well. I think it's just, in routines, we have a routine. This is when we're getting up. This is what we're doing. This is when we're going to bed. I think routines are very important as well, but making sure that your husband or your wife, the spouse, has that communication with the child as well. There needs to be time where you're not involved in that, where they have their own time together. And I think that's so, so important. And, you know, my kids look so forward to, oh, it's a, you know, daddy daughter date night. We're doing this, or, you know, so just making sure they have that time together.
Yeah.
I love that, their own relationship piece.
Mhm.
That's
Yes.
really important and takes the pressure off of you to
Mhm.
be all everything.
Because we're constantly carrying that when
Yeah,
they're away. We're carrying the feelings, the emotions, the sadness, the happiness. It's
Yeah.
a lot. And then if you have
Yes.
multiple children, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so
Mhm.
much, you know? But you just learn. Like, I know, like for my girls, they'll be happy if we go to Ulta and go spend time together. My son, he wants me to get out there and shoot the basketball with him. So you learn these things that help your children thrive during this as well.
Yes.
Wow. 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 Such good stuff there. All right. Reyna, I want to go back to you. You have the Desk of a Navy Wife podcast. You
Yes.
have an upcoming summit in May that we're all three of us have the gift of being a part of. You've become, talk to me about, those are just two of the things you're doing on multiple fronts. Talk to me about all of your resources and the kind of the catalyst of all that you went through. You've been in for long enough now to kind of see there are some gaps here. And I think I can fill them.
Yes. So in the beginning phase, with all the gaps that I encountered, and even to the piece of there was advocacy missing, like someone that was there to really speak for you or encourage you to speak up for yourself, I wanted to change that. So the resources being from whether I'm sharing, hey, did you know that this resource exists if you're having any like mental health challenges, or this resource exists for you if you're having any health issues, or just any resource if someone's going through deployment or moving. Any resources that I know, I share. I'm trying to bridge that gap, because a lot of military spouses don't find out about it unless they're talking to another military spouse on the installation that knows about it. And it's like, no, we need no gatekeeping. Whatever I'm finding out, I'm sharing amongst all the military spouses that I can that listen to the podcast. Now, the podcast is centered more around amplifying voices and amplifying experiences that we go through, different challenges, and then not just talking about the situation, the challenge, the issue, but how we've overcome it and how we can encourage others to overcome it. So that's the goal with the podcast, and sharing the realities of our life and what we deal with. And then with the piece of how I'm trying to create resources that may not exist is being having that experience working alongside the government and noticing there are some resources that exist for military spouses. I'll share. There's others where it's okay. Yes, you're talking at military spouses, right? You're still not relatable. You haven't had this experience. And service members, I completely understand you've gone through your own situations, but oftentimes it's service members talking to military spouses about how they should feel and the experiences and what to expect versus a military spouse doing that. Yeah. And so I was like, I want to change that. And I want to empower military spouses to advocate for themselves. So I have an advocacy hub on my membership site that's coming out soon, but it's resources like that, helping them and empowering them in their way to take over the work, take over their military life, take over balancing everything that's coming their way, and not feel like they have to be on the back burner or not feel like they're an afterthought. I'm very big on, man, everything seems like a military spouse is an afterthought. I don't like it, right? How can we change that? And how can I work and collaborate with other military spouses to change that and own our narrative? So that's what led to the summit. It's Empowerment Leads, a military spouse summit. It's catered around the 3 pillars: work, military life, and balance. So we talk about advocacy. We talk about federal resume writing, if that's something you want to do, career path, entrepreneurship. You're going to be on the Melissa as the guest of the hour, where we're talking about embracing all these layers and challenges. We have a transition conversation, financial clarity conversation, and self-care as a mom. So all of these will be different sessions that everyone can take care of themselves or check into the season that they're in and where they want to be. That's the goal of the summit. So it's free. It's to military spouses. They can attend. And Nicole is part of the giveaway process, which is really nice to see. This is a military spouse that's getting highlighted. All of our giveaways are military spouses. So those are highlighting to entrepreneurs that exist or other resources that exist that military spouses don't know about. That's my goal, empowering and amplifying all of us on our platform.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to share my framework with these spouses of just some doable tools they can do to check in with themselves regularly and just keep, just something that doesn't, that they can just apply. It's simply an integrate in. It doesn't take a big, shift or change or hours or time. I think it's so powerful. And the way that you've integrated other spouses into it to talk about their resources and what they offer. How can people sign up for it?
Yeah, so you can go to Eventbrite, and I'll also be sure to include it when you put this in the recording.
Yeah, this will be in the show notes too.
Yes, and you can go to Eventbrite if you want to follow me on Instagram, The Desk of a Navy Wife, or YouTube. I do have a link specifically that directs you to register for the summit. It's May 16th and 17th. It is free, and then if you want the recording access, then that's a fee, but everything else is on the day of. You tune in, you tap in, and it's catered around our lifestyle. We may not have 8 hours to sit down. So you're checking in on a Facebook prompt, you're joining a Zoom for an hour, and you can have your child sit on your lap or run around in the background. We don't care. Okay. We're all military spouses that are speaking. So we can relate that life is if you're cooking and listening, at least you're tuning in for that time to do so. And so I made sure that it's virtual and you can plug in different areas on those 2 days.
Yeah, there's so much flexibility and ways to check in for it. It's so well thought out by you because you live this life. You know what's necessary to make it possible for people to tune in on this. I'll tell people where they can find your podcast as well.
Yeah, so you can find my podcast on YouTube or Spotify, The Desk of a Navy Wife. As soon as you type it in, I'll pop up. It's purple with the microphone in the background. But that'll also be on my social media platforms, Instagram and Facebook, The Desk of a Navy Wife. You'll have a link to my podcast as well. So you can tune in on there. And Reach Across Radio, I'm also on there.
Wow.
If you want to tune in there too.
Okay.
Or Reach Across America Radio. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. So that'll all be in the show notes. So much there. Nicole, we've talked about the things you do in person, but talk about you've got a lot out there. You've got 4 books. You have a lot out there. You're part of this summit coming up. Talk about your resources and where people can find and follow you. And again, all will be in our show notes.
Absolutely. So my platforms are what I hold so very dear to my heart: pregnancy and infant loss, spousal abuse, addiction, and sexual assault. They are unfortunately everything that I have experienced in my life. And specifically, I remember when, Samuel died and the miscarriages, thinking, oh my gosh, I feel so alone. How am I ever going to heal from this? And I remember promising my son in that moment, if I ever get sober and clean and heal from your loss, I will make sure to turn that pain into purpose and be that voice for all women and military spouses who've experienced rape, abuse, infant loss, miscarriage, and addiction. And I've done just that. I just hit 6 years of sobriety. I was just named the 2026 National Guard Spouse of the Year. I have published 4 books, and each book has its own purpose. When my son died, I felt like there was lots of memoirs out there sharing the story, but there was never a step-by-step, this is what you do, this is how you can heal, this is how you get from point A to B. A big thing is we lose ourselves. We don't feel good enough or worthy, especially after experiencing all of these traumas. And so my books really go through those steps. I've got A Queen Saves Herself, Broken Wings, Broken Dreams, The Healing Cocoon, and The Queen's Companion book. And they're really going to be these books that are all bestsellers, which is such a gift from the Lord. That means that it's just such a need for them. And they're going to walk you through how to feel beautiful and worthy and want to get out of bed again and no longer cling to an addiction and all of that. I hold AA meetings each week on Zoom. So if you're looking for something and you don't want to go in person, please connect with me there. I do the pregnancy and infant loss support groups. I do one in Zoom and one in person. So I've got all the spouses here in the Fairbanks area, but also if you want to, again, you just want to jump on a place where you don't have to show your face or speak or something like that. Keep your camera off, turn your microphone, and just listen. Let this be the safe place where you don't feel alone, where you know that you can get through this. It's something I say that you never get over it, but it is definitely something you can work through, where you can feel beautiful and happy. And if you check out my social media, I continue to share my story, one, because I want women and military spouses not to feel alone, but two, I want women to know that you can literally walk through hell but still come out on top and still live that life you've always dreamed of living. So I do retreats for women as well. I really want to be that voice. I want women to look at me and say, holy crap, she did it, so I can do it too. I'll be in DC for the month of May, where I'm meeting with a lot of legislation and leadership, and talk to them about, this is a need for us. Us military spouses, we're like all the other women out there. We experience pregnancy and infant loss. We experience abuse. We experience addiction, and we need a voice. We need to know that we're not alone and that you're here to support us. So I will continue to be that, to stand up and be that woman and that military spouse fighting for other spouses so they feel seen, supported, and heard as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much to you both. We could talk for forever. Obviously, I want to honor everyone's time, but you are both such important voices for spouses, and you honor yourself so well in the process, and you don't sugarcoat it, but you also show how you can thrive. You can move forward. You can heal and take these experiences and help others with them. It doesn't mean you don't mourn, but you both live out the nuance so well in how you show up, and the ability to allow all spaces that need to be allowed to process and move through. So I thank you so much. I'm so thankful. I know both of you. I'm so grateful to have you in my network. These resources, again, are going to be in our show notes. Before we wrap up today, Reyna and then Nicole, one last thought you'd like to share with our listeners.
I would like to share for the military spouses out there to keep advocating for yourself and don't stay silent. Resilience does not mean silence. You can speak up. And if you need someone there to support you or encourage you, they're right here on the screen. And there's other resources and spouses that exist for that as well.
Yeah, I love that. I love that what you said about resilience in silence piece, so important. Nicole, how about you?
I think the biggest thing I can share is you are not meant to do this life alone. I guarantee if you reach out to one person, and you don't have to blast it on social media like I do, that's my mission, but reach out to a best friend or a family member or someone and share your story. I guarantee you are not alone. So reach out to someone to share and find community. Find these other people that live the life that you live so you feel supported and seen and celebrated. We are worthy to be celebrated as military spouses. We do the big thing every single day. Most of the time, I know for personal experience, I'm serving alone. He's away. And so, you deserve to be celebrated, and make sure you're doing something for yourself. I can't say that enough as well. Make sure you're doing at least one thing for yourself each week so you too can bloom and feel beautiful and worthy.
I love that. Such a great way to wrap that up. Reyna Worthy, Nicole B. Gebhardt, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so thankful to know you both. And listeners, remember, you are worthy, you are valuable, and you get to choose. You get to choose the life you're going to live. And you're worthy of all of that. So take good care of yourselves. Access these resources. If you're having trouble finding anything, go to embracinglayers.com and fill out that contact form. That's what I was trying to get to. And just say, hey, I can't find this. And we will respond to you right away. But take a look at all these women offer. Share them with if you're not a military spouse, but you know them, share these resources, spread it far and wide. This isn't, like Reyna said earlier, this isn't meant to be kept hidden. This is meant to be out in the open for all to know about. We're so thankful for you. We know your spouses could not do this without you. You are a blessing. We honor you and lift you up. Take good care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time here on Together We Feel.